Well, good afternoon. I hope that you feel rewarded for joining BlueTube live. I really didn't think we'd be able to show you some of these so soon. Tony, did you expect the bluebells to be out?
Well, I was wondering if we might see something. Yes, they usually get ones or twos just starting at the beginning of the year. But actually, when we came into the wood, there was literally just one or two. But now we're seeing, this must be a sunny bank or something, because we're seeing a lot more here. And they're actually out. They're actually looking like bells. Fantastic.
Yeah, let's take a little look here. Try not to step on anything. You can see the bells on our bluebells. Are they always blue?
Yeah, well, usually. Yeah, there's several things here, because you've got the bluebells and they're usually exactly that colour that you're looking at. But you do come across the occasional white one, and that's just genetic variation. So you look at this and you see a sea of blue with the occasional white bluebell. You think, oh, somebody planted that. Is that wrong? But no, it's just genetic variation. So our native bluebells have this nice blue colour. They're kind of deeper blue, I suppose, than the non-native Spanish one. And the other thing that distinguishes these from the Spanish bluebell, the invasive one, is that the anthers, the dots on the inside, they're cream coloured, whereas the bigger Spanish bluebells have bright blue anthers.
Wow, that's amazing. Now we are live in the woods for BlueTube Live, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to see your messages this time. So keep coming in with questions. And what's interesting, Tony, is they're not just in this small cluster here. It's hard to see on this camera, but they are all up the bank, which is amazing.
Yeah, I think we're in a kind of sunny bit here, so they're out a little bit earlier than the rest of the woods. As we were walking up here, we just saw the odd one, and we're trying to imagine that they were out, weren't we? But these ones really are out.
That's right. Well, Pamela Blowers is watching, and Danielle Woolner, welcome. Lovely to see you. So we're going to leave this patch of bluebells with excitement about seeing what is going to follow us next. And we're just going up a bit of the hill. You'll see where we are in a minute, because you'll see it from last week. And I'll wait for Tony to pounce.
See if I can pounce on something. What can I pounce on? There's all sorts of small things here, which we'll see if we can find a decent example. And now I can. Oh, here we are. Yeah, we've got some very small flowers in here somewhere. Oh, I've just lost it now.
There's something here.
Yeah, what's that? I think. I'm not actually sure. No, I think it might just be. Oh, that might be the Barren strawberry. Yes, that's Barren strawberry. And we've got more Barren strawberry flowers here. So this is, it's not strawberry, it's Barren strawberry. So it's in the Potentilla family. And see, the leaves are kind of blunt at the end. See, look, the last notch is going back from the edge, whereas a proper strawberry is pointed at the end.
But we've got is that the flower for it?
Yep, that's the flower.
If I can see it.
That's a good example there.
Wait a minute, let me just get to where your hand is. There we go. That looks a bit like a strawberry flower, doesn't it?
It does, but it looks like it, but it's different, if you see what I mean.
It's a different species.
It's a different species in a different family.
And welcome to Felicity Jones as well. Thank you for coming and seeing our bluebells. We're hoping to show you some more in a minute. In fact, they're just poking out here as we go up the bank.
There's all the other Barren strawberry here, the little white flowers, which is nice. We're starting to get the leaves of red campion. Actually looks like somebody's nibbled this. Maybe the deer have nibbled it, but that's red campion leaves mixed in with Barren strawberry again, red campion. So lots here. There is actually a buttercup. I think that's probably just the common one, but you do get a woodland buttercup here called the Goldilocks Buttercup, but I can't tell whether that's it or not.
It's a bit early, is it?
It's possibly a bit early. It does come out early.
You can see some of the daffodils have gone now up this high. But a lot of them are still out. Are you surprised by that?
Well, I never really thought about it before, but when we think about it, we've been looking at daffodils for 4 weeks. I thought they were just out for a few days, because I don't usually come out week after week. But now they've been out for 4 weeks, and some of them are going over. And these ones here are finishing, but there's even some still in bud, so they're still coming.
And those are the native ones. I think we did see some non-natives, which we might come across in a minute as well.
Again, we're starting to see other plants come out. This is wood woundwort. Yeah, I think it smells horrible. Yeah, it smells pretty horrible. There's another one up here, which we saw earlier. This is ground ivy. And talking of horrible smelling plants, if you get that, delicate little flowers. But just have a look at the leaf, give it a sniff. That really is quite disgusting. So that's a really horrible smelling plant, and you can usually identify it just by walking on it. You get this odd smell, of quite pungent smell from ground ivy, and that's what that is.
Apparently Mark says it's not a good idea to touch. The petals don't touch on the flowers of the Barren strawberry. Petals don't touch.
Oh yes, see what he means. Yeah. They're structured differently because they're a different genus altogether.
And Danielle says there's loads of bluebells near her in Chiddingfold, which is a bit warmer up there.
Yes.
So we're happy to have seen any today, aren't we?
Well, yes. I wasn't sure we were going to see any. I thought it's going to be another week where we see the same things as last week.
But with Tony in the woods, you always see something different.
Oh, there's more things to see here. Look.
Oh.
If we look there, see that tree with the marks going round it?
Yes.
That's a cherry tree. And you often get cherry on the edge of woods. They seem to like the edges. And they're not long-lived trees, so they don't grow much bigger than that, and then they fall over. So you often get cherries on the edge of woodland, and they look great because they come into flower fairly soon, I guess.
I was going to say, when the flower comes out there, that's going to be a lovely crowning glory to this view, isn't it?
Yeah, and you often get different things on the edge of the woodland. I mean, right next to us here is a chestnut, and the chestnut dominates the whole of the wood. But you move along and you're starting to see some, as I say, the cherry, there's some ash, we saw a maple, there's a hazel there, and we've got ash trees here, which are worth watching because we have the problem of ash dieback, which is possibly going to kill a huge number of our ash, well, it's already killing a huge number of our ash trees.
Will any of them escape, do you think?
Yes, they will. The bad news is it seems in some places to kill 90% of our ash trees could die, but they set seed so vigorously that 5 or 10% surviving will actually probably be enough to continue the ash tree. But it'll be a great shame if we lose these huge old coppice stalls of ash here, because these are very old.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, what else can you find for us today?
Oh, there's always lots to see here.
Is
the ground ivy. Yeah.
Is that still ground ivy?
That's
See, I thought it was violet.
Yeah, we saw some violets earlier, didn't we? But no, that's ground ivy.
There's plenty of it, isn't there?
Yeah, and there's other things creeping out here. I'm not sure what they're going to grow into. That might be... I think that's wood speedwell, I think. We've got the goosegrass or cleavers that everybody knows.
I love it when you say everybody knows, because of course I don't know anything, which is why you're here.
This is the really sticky thing that usually grows in with stinging nettles. It clings to you. I think.
I know. Yes,
yeah,
you walk through and it all sticks to your legs.
It all sticks to you. Yeah, I think in Scotland it's called sticky willy.
I beg your pardon.
That's not my name.
And Viv was asking, on the ground ivy, is there a reason why it has such a pungent smell?
Oh, there probably is. Is it to attract something? Whenever there's a pungent smell, it's usually to attract something, and but I'm not quite sure why, because that's when you crush the leaves themselves. They've got this horrible smell. It's either to attract something or to repel something. I'm not sure which.
Well, we're going down the path here. Now, I should know, is this dog's speedwell? I don't know what I'm talking about.
Dog's mercury.
Dog's mercury.
Close, yeah.
And
we see it in this wood. On the edge of the path we see this because that likes lime-rich soils, but these soils aren't lime-rich. So I think it shows where the path has been disturbed and releases a few more nutrients, so you get the dog's mercury. But you don't see it anywhere near so much in the body of the wood. If you went up onto the South Downs, where it's all very chalky soil, that just carpets the whole area, dominates. You just get a complete carpet of dog's mercury, but here it's just in patches.
So some questions coming in here. How do you tell ground ivy from violet, asks Sheila.
If you get up close, it's fairly easy. They've got very different structured flowers.
There's some here of the ivy.
The flowers are actually very, very different. They're just basically the same colour. If you look at it, it's a long trumpet-shaped flower, whereas the violet is more like a pansy, I suppose, in structure, the same family.
Well, hopefully we'll find some
one
on the way down. And there was another question from Felicity. Sorry about the wind. It's quite windy here.
Yes.
Why does the sticky speedy thing grow with needles? I think she's talking about the
nettles.
sticky willy.
Nettles. Nettles, yes.
I'm so busy thinking about the sticky willy that I forgot to say nettles.
Yeah.
Why does the sticky speedy thing grow with nettles?
Right. Yes. They're both responding to the same conditions. They both like nutrient-rich places, and so nettles in particular really grow best on very, very nutrient-rich soils. Oh, look, here's some nettles. So yeah, you get lots of nettles on nutrient-rich soils, and that's exactly the same conditions that the goosegrass or the cleavers likes as well.
So the soil tells you everything then?
Yeah, yes. And right next to it here, we've actually got the town hall clock, which is starting to get a little bit bigger.
And a few flowers on that as well. Fantastic. Now we were here last week, as you know, and there was something here. There was an amazing tree right where I'm showing you, and I don't know if you can see it on the feed, but it's there on the ground.
Yeah, it looks like that tree blew over during the week, in the last week or so, which is a thing really, because that's what happens with trees that are used to being in the middle of the wood. If all its surrounding friends have been removed, like in this coppice cycle, then it's suddenly exposed, and it gets blown over much more easily. In fact, in the Great Storm, what we often noticed is the middle of the woods blew down, but the edges didn't, because the edges are used to being blown around. But as soon as a hole appears, the other trees become more vulnerable. Now that's a bit of a shame really, because that would have made a nice timber tree, which would have been good for construction or whatever. So that is one of the vulnerabilities. If you open up a wood, you can lose some of the trees. So that's a bit of a shame really.
Oh, it is.
But actually, while we're here, we can look at the shape of these trees, because this used to be a coppiced area, and the coppice was cut and it's now sitting there waiting to be taken away to be used for something, probably for stakes I guess. But the trees that are left behind are the timber trees. Some of them are relatively young actually, they've still got a long way to grow. But if you look, you can see some oak trees which have been there at least one cycle before. I think there's, pointing at the top on the horizon there's a bigger oak tree and it spreads out a bit. Now that shape is quite characteristic, because if you imagine that tree growing, it grew up. Oh no!
I hope we're going to stay. Did we get cut off from you? Are we live now? Yes, we're back. We're sorry back, guys, we had a little bit of interruption to service. I think it might be the wind actually, it's quite windy. We were talking about the shape of these trees, these old oak trees. They are quite tall as well as spreading out at the top, aren't they?
Yeah, they grow up to kind of canopy height and they spread out above what was the coppice layer. If we turn the camera over there, you can see a coppice layer growing. It's a few years old now, and the trees grow out and spread above that. Now if the coppice is cut quite regularly, then the trees will form a broader crown above it. But if the coppice grows up into the canopy, then you get the narrower crowns of most of the ones you see here. So these younger trees grew in a coppice system which was left for longer than that big old oak tree.
Which, it's a shame one of them hasn't survived. Now we are trying to find you some violets, and I hope that the signal will hold up as we go down the hill. We'll have to see, won't we? Let's look at the nice bank, shall we? The bank with all those bluebells in that we love so well. Just a reminder of a nice clump of bluebells here for those of you who might have missed the beginning.
One thing we have got here is some nice wooden anemone in flower.
Oh, let's have a look. Let's hope.
Just about see it there. Just starting to wake up.
Wow.
Which, as I said last week, are usually at the lower slopes where it's wetter in spring, but here we are right at the top of the hill. It must be a bit of a soggy area, I guess. It likes spring wet waterlogged soils.
I'm hoping people rejoined us because we had that interruption, but I think we've still got our audience with us, which
Excellent.
is good to know.
Here we have something which I'd like to talk a bit about. That's got several names: Arum lily, lords and ladies, or Cuckoo-pint.
So do that one again, because that's quite a list.
Yeah, this one here. It's got several names. Cuckoo-pint, I think, is what most people know it by, but it's also known as lords and ladies. So that's Cuckoo-pint. It's got a very interesting life cycle. It produces you can hardly call it a flower really. It's a thing like a flower, sticking out of a kind of cone of leaves, which smells utterly disgusting. And the reason it smells disgusting, it smells of dead meat. And the reason it does that is because it's trying to attract flies. So it attracts flies to pollinate it. But it's not as simple as that, because what it does, the male flower comes out first, attracts the flies, they get attracted to this horrible smelling thing, and then they fall down inside a kind of capsule thing. But they can't get out again. So they're buzzing around in there trying to get out, but they can't get out, and they're getting covered in pollen. Now, I think about a day later, I think there's downward pointing hairs to stop them getting out. About a day later, those hairs recede and the fly can get out. but then it flies off to the female flower, which does the same, so it attracts the fly, but then it captures the fly again. This time it doesn't let it out.
Oh, there's a lot of cruelty in nature.
There's a lot of cruelty in nature.
And bad smells as well. Now, quickly, before I stop seeing these questions, Kim, where exactly are you? We've been keeping it a bit secret so that we don't bring hordes up here, but I'll tell you afterwards. Clarissa Bushell, I found a blackbird's nest this morning with eggs. Is this quite normal, or is it too early, or is it very early?
No, I think it's probably about right, because blackbirds and thrushes, I believe, I'm no great bird expert, but I think they're some of the earlier birds. So yes, we saw a song thrush nest yesterday, so they're obviously getting down to it. It kind of feels late, but I'm not sure it is. It's probably the same time as last year.
And Peter, Toby, Lindsay, we're here. We're jealous as no bluebells yet in Somerset.
Ah, Somerset, right.
Now, will they get bluebells like our bluebells in Somerset?
Oh, certainly, yes. In fact, if anything, the bluebells, to some extent, are a western distribution. So they're probably very happy in the Somerset area. But, yeah, well, we get masses of bluebells over here in Sussex and Kent and the east as well. So they're very much a thing of this country.
So we haven't got them all over here yet.
No.
They will be soon. I mean, I can see some just in the distance, but I don't think the camera will pick them up sort of around there.
We still haven't found our violets, have we? I'm sure we can find some.
No, but we know there's some here because we saw them on the way up. And there are some more bluebells there. Just the odd one. We found a good patch to start with for those of you who joined us early. Kim, I'm sorry about the wind interrupting the voices occasionally. It sort of affects quite a few things, but we've got a wind muffler on. We're doing the best we can, and there is a lovely bluebell. Look, just there, right by the path.
Yeah,
here.
lovely. So while we're looking for violets, shall I tell you a little bit about soil carbon?
Oh,
the carbon that's here.
Yeah, I think Tony wants to tell us about soil carbon.
Well, it's just staggering, isn't it? You look at all this wood and just think of the standing crop, the amount of carbon that's standing there when these trees were here. Vast amounts of carbon locked up in these trees. Now, this is sustainably managed. They're going to be taken away and used for something else, and so this will be replaced by more trees growing. So vast amounts of carbon there, and you think, well, that's great, isn't it? Because there's all this carbon in the trees. But a staggering thought to me is actually, if you look at the soil, there's 3 times as much carbon in the soil as there is in the standing crop of the trees, which is staggering, isn't it? 75% of the carbon in woodlands is in the soil.
Wow. So leaving them undisturbed is really important.
Well, I mean, yes, because it carries on sequestering, even old growth forests. We used to think it would reach an equilibrium, but it now seems that they carry on locking up carbon, pumping it more or less into the soil. But it's not just woodlands. All good habitats, or most good habitats, do that. Grasslands, there's not much actually in the grass, but it's pumping carbon into the soil. So that's a staggering thing. We need a good functioning soil ecosystem for these benefits to be realised. And that's what you get in woodlands.
Fantastic. Well, listen, guys, we're nearly done here. We just want to find you a violet.
We want a violet.
And if the signal goes, it's wait a minute. What have I found in here?
It's a violet. Let's pop. There we are. That's a common dog violet, I think.
Thank you. Do you want to park this one on the right?
There we
as
go.
well?
Can
There
you see that?
It'll spring back up. So you can talk about the difference there from the ivy, can't you? The ground ivy.
Yeah, the ground ivy is a much smaller flower. You can see here that you've got this pattern of kind of 5 leaves, always in this sort of shape, this sort of pattern, with a spur at the back as well. So it's not really the trumpet-shaped flower that you get with the ground ivy. The leaves are these nice heart-shaped things, which are totally different, and it really doesn't smell as horrible as the other one either. So really, I don't know, it's just really nice to know the violets, to see the violets this time of year. There's actually a lot of species, and every year I try to learn them, and every year I forget because they're not out for long. But I think this is the common dog violet with a fairly short spur at the back. But maybe somebody will tell me I'm wrong. There is a rare violet called the early dog violet, which has a much longer spur out of the back, which is really an ancient woodland plant. But this is the more common one.
Oh, well, that was lovely. Let's get it back into its habitat here.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about these. These are obviously domestic daffodils.
Oh yes,
so
they've snuck in, these ones. We don't like those as much as... Look at the difference though.
Well, this actually makes a nice point as well. I don't think it matters if I tread on this bit, because this is a very complex flower. And actually, that's completely useless to a bee, because it can't get in there. These are just bred to be showy, to look pretty. But when it comes to being of any use to a pollinator, the bee can't get in there to get its nectar, so it can't receive any pollen, can't get the pollen on it. So these are just sitting there. They're not really helping our
Whereas our lovely
pollinating insects.
natives that are shorter and
Exactly.
simpler. We've got some right by the path here. Oh,
Here we are. You
is
can
that a
see
native
here.
there?
This is a native one, and you can see if you're a bumblebee, you can get in there really easily. You can get the pollen, you can get your nectar, reward, and off you go again to the next one.
Oh, Sheila's thanked you for finding the violet and for showing the difference. Well, I think we might be done for this week. We're really happy to have seen you all on board, and of course you can catch up on Facebook. The recording will be on there too. But next week is Easter Sunday, so we're going to have a week off. And what do you expect to see in 2 weeks' time?
I think
Tony?
in 2 weeks' time, I think we'll see. Let's risk a prediction. I think in 2 weeks' time we're going to see some major changes. I think these daffodils will more or less be over. They'll still be around, but I think they'll more or less be over. And I think we'll be seeing a reasonable show of bluebells by then, so it'll be good.
Fantastic. We'll join. Oh, go on.
The weather's bound to be good as well, so
That's an omen. I bet it will pour with rain now. But we'll be here, rain or shine, won't we?
absolutely.
Yes, of course we will. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.